I am interviewing Sally Chung, and we are interviewing you for arts educator. So, first, could you give us a brief introduction to being an arts educator and the goals to the career?
Yeah, as an arts educator, basically your job is like art teacher, right? So I'm currently teaching at a high school in Ojai, California, and I teach various visual art programs, including ceramics, studio art. I teach a little bit of graphic design, and I also teach art history. So it's just like, normal teacher stuff. You're telling kids um, you're showing them new curriculum, you're telling them about artists, you're guiding them through the artistic process, and you're really just there to help them build portfolios for college as well.
Okay. So how's the work life and experience?
The work life is great. I mean, well, if you think about your teachers, they're probably doing way more work than it seems like they are because they're grading. They're setting up for like back to school night events. They're constantly writing new curriculum, probably every year, if it's a pretty comprehensive class. But in terms of like being a teacher, it's amazing. Like it's the reason why I wanted to be a teacher because you work the school year for like what 6 months. Um, is it 6 to 9 months? I forget. You work like 3/4 of the year, and then you have like 3 month plus vacation. And if you go to like a normal job, at max, they'd probably give you like 14 days of paid vacation. So for me, it was really important to have time off to myself. And for teaching, I loved it already and I love the kids, but it also gave me the freedom. So in terms of work life, you work really hard during the school year and then you get like a very, very long break. So it's kind of incredible. On a typical day, I'd probably wake up at 7, teach classes until like 4, and then sometimes I'll grade for like an hour or two, and then the rest of the evening is pretty much to myself.
So what drew you to this job, and how did you get to become an arts educator?
Yeah, well, I went to UCLA for fine arts, and I loved making art my whole life. And I figured, I still wanted to make my own artwork, but then still have like a pretty stable job to supplement me. And as the stereotype is true, it's very hard to have a stable life as an artist. But I started doing a minor in arts education while I was at UCLA. So we had to visit a lot of school campuses. And at first, I started working in elementary schools, and that slowly worked up till high school. So I would say it's very, very different though, teaching young kids to like high schoolers. Like it almost feels like a completely different job. But I did get my start out in teaching younger kids, mostly like motor function and teaching like basic things like color. And then I was able to like kind of like work my way up to different, I guess, grade levels, and more maturity comes like more fun and curriculum. So
So what would you think would make someone a good fit for this career?
I think you definitely have to be a very caring person. I think if you think about your teachers, you want someone who like actually cares about what they're doing. And if that type of passion is like not there, like if you try teaching while you're doing in college or like tutoring or anything like that and like it doesn't work for you, I would say like go the other direction because it's really, really hard to fake your job in front of like 100 students a day, right? Like it's very, very apparent. So I think I mean, more like every job, you have to be really passionate, but especially in teaching, just because you're kind of responsible for the education and like kind of and kind of leaving impressions for like actual people, right? Like that is part of your job title. So I would say like you have to like being around people. You don't necessarily have to be an extrovert. I would consider myself a very much an introvert. I did not like public speaking up until college. So like those things you can always work on, and like everything, once you feel comfortable with a certain group of people, like you're totally fine. So I would say you don't have to be an extrovert, but you do have to love what you do.
Can you think of any downsides to this career or any regrets that this career has caused you?
Not yet. I mean, I think I've been teaching for like 6 years now, and I think you have to do something for a really long time to either realize you love it or you hate it. Um, Even though I've been teaching for 6 years, I remember I did not like teaching younger kids very much. And I thought that it wasn't for me. And I actually like left teaching for a year and tried to do something else. But then I went back and realized, I still love teaching. I love fostering creative growth and discovery in people around me, because that's personally what has affected me the most as I've grown up. But I just didn't want to like be someone's babysitter. And so you get a lot of that if you're teaching elementary school, of course. But in high school, it's a totally different game. Like I can treat my students like as if I would if they were in college. So that's definitely opened up the career a lot. But I don't have any regrets because I mean, I think teaching is one of those things that's like very, very fulfilling. Like I go to work every day and I know that I'm like making a difference. I know that I'm like helping people. Most jobs, you're kind of like staring at numbers or like statistics and you don't necessarily feel that immediate like of cause and effect. But that is very immediate in the art education career or education career in general. So that's been really
Mhm.
nice.
How do promotions work for this career, or does it apply?
I would say it depends. Like if you just want to be a teacher, then you can be a teacher forever. You've seen like older people like retire and still teach second grade in the same job that they started out when they were younger. And there's nothing wrong with that. But some teachers do have the aspiration to like work in administration or like write more policies surrounding education or the way schools run. So like I've seen some of my coworkers graduate or I guess graduate from being a teacher to then taking on more like a director role and like working with maybe fielding like student wellness or working with curriculum building like solely, or sometimes they kind of climb the ladder and become principal of the school. So if you're more like into the policy and like the background scenes of how schools work and how education works, that's definitely a ladder that you can climb. Otherwise, I mean, you could be a teacher forever and love it. And like, yes, of course, your salary would probably go up every year, but it wouldn't be something crazy drastic.
How do you get started in this career, and are there internships available?
Yeah, I was lucky because UCLA had a very, um, had a very, what is it? A very direct program for you to be able to have teaching experience by the time you graduated college. But otherwise, I mean, you can probably inquire in any sort of education program that might be in your college. I would say I wouldn't really start like prepping for this in high school, like because I don't know if like those types of experiences would be applicable to like your job, like getting a job after college. But you could try like tutoring. You could see if you like being around other kids. You could try doing like community work, and seeing if you like kind of like interacting with strangers or people you don't know, and see if you have that in you. Otherwise, like, I would just say like find an education program at your college, and then that will give you the opportunity to then get into schools and like do internships there. Because I don't know if you can necessarily go to a school and be like, I'm a random person, I want to intern, like, because there's a lot of trust that comes into like allowing a random stranger or an adult into a school. So I would say you would have to go through like another program.
How has this career changed you as a person, and has it grown new traits in you, expanded feelings you previously had?
Yeah, I mean, if I remember growing up, I never said I never sought out to be a teacher. It was something that kind of just naturally happened because it was a very realistic route to like having stability while also doing something that I love. So I would say it's probably humbled me being around all these kids, all these artists. I mean, even when you're an artist and making your own work, it's often very, very easy to feel discouraged or feel like you just don't see the point. But like being around students and younger people like constantly who want to like express themselves or have found that it's healing for them to make artwork is humbling for me and myself in my own career as an artist as well. So in terms of that, it's very, very cool to have that nice reminder to keep doing things you love just because you love it.
Thank you. And do you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, well, if anyone is watching this and is interested in an art career, I would say a lot of people feel afraid about how they would support themselves with that type of career. But I would say don't feel afraid to kind of like hold down 2 to 3 jobs at once to do what you love because it's definitely possible. Like, for example, as an artist who works on my own work, personal artwork, but also as a teacher, I can have my full-time job, get salary benefits, but then like 1/4 of the year kind of do whatever I want and have like a very, very long period of time able to do that. So I would say teaching would be a really, really clutch job to get if you are serious about being a studio artist, just because you have all that support, both monetarily, the time. And then for me, I'm really lucky because I work at a boarding school and they have like a beautiful art studio and ceramic studio that I run. So like it basically kind of doubles as my own studio and ceramic studio when the kids aren't here. So it's kind of like free rent for your studio work if that's something that you're even thinking far ahead enough right now logistically. But it's possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.